Watch with Reverend Dr. Dylan Toussaint. The Morning Watch is brought to you by Home and Things, your construction finishes superstore, and Chris and Charles. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles.
Save in style every time you shop at Home and Things. Find all the top brands at the best prices. Grab a deal on porcelain, ceramic and mosaic tiles, fixtures and faucets for kitchen and bathroom, windows and doors, lighting, home decor and more. Yes, you can save in style on just about everything in store. Old Hope Road and Constant Spring Road. Shop for store-wide savings today at Home and Things. Brands you know, brands you can trust.
Power in great moments. If you have financial needs, Chris and Charles will fix them for you. Power in great moments since 1992. Oh, we have it all. Power in great moments. Relax, you got Chris and Charles. Oh, we have it all. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you're overseas and on the move, U.S. listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you're in the UK, 0330-332-6541. Or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the first watch today, adjusting to the adjustments in accessing ABMs. And in the second watch, the other costs of crime. For our social media question, we ask, have you changed how you access and use ABMs? Well, tell us how. And in so doing, we are asking you to share your responses on our Love 101 FM Facebook page and YouTube channel, and also on WhatsApp 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your responses later on in the program, but before all of that, here's our quote.
Good morning. Good morning. Today's I quote is an inspiration quote, and it says, I want my children to have all the things I couldn't afford. Then I want to move in with them.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Is that your wish for your future children?
Not really. I want them to have everything I didn't have, right? But moving in
with them.
Moving
with them?
Nah. If push come to shove, maybe. But push will never have to come to shove. I pray.
Yes, because in spite of the quote, it may not be the best thing all the way.
Exactly.
Interesting. All right, the first one to be back after this break.
Here is your opportunity to connect with someone who will listen, pray, and give guidance. It's the Ministry of Counseling and Prayer of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Please call 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please talk to someone if you're finding it particularly challenging to cope during this period of crisis. Someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today, 876-220-6474 or 876 332-7956. It's the telephone counseling and prayer ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. A reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
When I come to the end of myself, Father, carry me. Get that. Whoa! Juicy at the shrimp patty, bro. Shrimp patty. Whoa! Careful, don't burn up your mouth. Juicy of the shrimp patty. One bag of flavor, then fling pan it. Love it, freshly baked, the flaky crust. Make me full me gut, the gas a bus. Shrimp patty, whoa. Juicy of the flavor you love. Add cheese or color, whoa. Juicy at the shrimp patty, bro.
A juicy have the shrimp patty you love. Get it today, Island White.
Power in great moments. If you have financial needs, Chris and Charles will fix them for you. Power in great moments since 1992. Oh, we have it all. Power in great moments. Relax, you got Chris and Charles. Oh, we have it all. When you think alone, think Chris and Charles.
With your Visa debit card in hand, you can do it all. Pay for all your expenses and win amazing rewards like a US $7,000 home makeover, a trip for two to any Copa Airlines destination, plus US $1,000 or a staycation for two at Sandals Resorts, plus bi-weekly prizes of air fryers, gas, or supermarket vouchers. Every use of your Visa debit card gets you closer to winning. Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming, and Lotteries Act.
In need of a loan? AIM Financial is the place to go. We have loans from $20,000 to $3.3 million. Get a loan to pay school or college tuition, medical expenses, bills, fix up your house, buy furniture and appliances, repair or buy a car. And when you're done, take a vacation loan. AIM has a loan for any purpose. Call AIM today. You won't find a better deal elsewhere. Guaranteed.
Save in style every time you shop at Home and Things. Find all the top brands at the best prices. Grab a deal on porcelain, ceramic and mosaic tiles, fixtures and faucets for kitchen and bathroom, windows and doors, lighting, home decor and more. Yes, you can save in style on just about everything in store. Old Hope Road and Constant Spring Road. Shop for store-wide savings today at Home and Things. Brands you know, brands you can trust.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Now, just when we seemed to have gotten accustomed or comfortable with the convenience and availability of ABMs as an alternative to transacting banking business, criminals have caused us to check our use of them. Indeed, on account of fatal attacks at ABMs, there is now talk of outright closure of some of these units, or they're shutting down at night. How will that affect the industry? And how will we do banking going forward? Well, to address these and other related questions and issues, we have online Mrs. Kalilah Reynolds, founder, CEO of Kalilah Reynolds Media Limited, and she's also a financial analyst, and Mr. Gordon Ellison, who is a security consultant. Good morning to you both.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Great having you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Great having you as well. All right, lady and the gentleman, what are your concerns re the announced outright closure, nightly shutting down of some ABMs? Beginning with you, Mrs. Reynolds.
Well, the immediate concern is inconvenience, and beyond inconvenience, making it difficult to do business. As you know, Jamaica is still primarily a cash society. And in addition to that, the banks for the past 3 years or so, ever since COVID, have been diverting us to the ATMs. Increasingly, they've been telling us,
don't come in branch, do all these transactions at the ATM, and now you're telling us that you're going to close down some ATMs and make some of them inaccessible at some hours of the day or night. And so that makes it really difficult for people who need to do business. You need cash for whatever reason. There are some stores still that only accept cash. And now you're telling us that this is going to be that much more difficult to do. That's a big concern.
Mr. Ellison, what's your take on that?
Yes, it's going to be very inconveniencing for a lot of persons. I can say just the other day, I wanted some cash and I went to the ATM and there was no cash at about 4 ATMs around Kingston. So you're going to find now where, one, most of our working hours are surrounding around the banking hours. So therefore, we're going to have a lot of loss in productivity for many workers because they will know, in wanting to reduce the risk of them being robbed or not having cash, they're going to now have more people in banks.
Yeah.
And if more ATMs are closed, we're going to find we still have a lot of shops that only use cash, and we have not yet gone a fraction of being a cashless society. So this is going to cause a lot of issues, especially for persons who depend on their day-to-day cash. Not many persons are fluid like that, where they can draw cash for the week. We still have people who depend on their everyday cash transactions. So there are going to be lots of inconvenience.
Yeah, yes. Mrs. Reynolds, the reasons given for these new developments, what's your take on that? Do you buy these reasons? Do you believe it? Do you believe there's more afoot than we have been told?
Well, I understand the reasons. I mean, security is a major concern in this country. I have been speaking with people in the industry, specifically people who work in the cash transportation industry, and it is an extremely expensive business and more increasingly dangerous business. And we have seen that where criminals have brazenly attacked these companies. And so I understand, why they would take this move. I'm hoping that it's a temporary move, until they can come up with a more permanent solution as they, brainstorm as to ways that we can solve this problem. Now, does solving the problem mean solving the crime problem in Jamaica? Because that's a much, much bigger problem to solve. So how do we get around it? Is it that banks are going to have to increase their security at ATMs? Is it that they're going to have to move ATMs to more secure locations? What are some other solutions for this problem?
Mr. Ellison, how safe are the ATMs in Jamaica, generally speaking, anyway?
Okay, well, we have had cases of ATMs being stolen, totally removed from where they are. I believe that we have not properly secured our ATMs that are not connected to banks. And the reason I say that is you find when you go to some of the gas stations, you find that the ATM, there's no 24-hour security. It's not properly grilled in. And so when you have these isolated locations with millions of dollars in cash, that's providing an opportunity for people who know how easily these things can be removed.
Yeah.
And so I believe one of the first moves that may happen is that only banks with 24-hour security and ABMs, like some in Kingston, may have cash outside of banking hours.
Yeah, okay, well, hold that thought. Hold those thoughts, please. We're up on a break. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Here is your opportunity to connect with someone who will listen, pray, and give guidance. It's the Ministry of Counseling and Prayer of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Please call 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please talk to someone if you're finding it particularly challenging to cope during this period of crisis. Someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today. 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. It's the telephone counseling and prayer ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. A reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
When I come to the end of myself, Father, carry me.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. And in this, the first watch, we're seeking to adjust as best we can to the adjustments in accessing ABMs. And in so doing, we have online Mrs. Kalilah Reynolds, financial analyst, and Mr. Gordon Ellison, security consultant. Before the break, Mr. Ellison, you were making a point, and I know that Mrs. Reynolds wanted to come in. Were you finished?
Oh, yes, I'll allow. You can go ahead, Mrs. Reynolds.
Okay, Mrs. Reynolds,
yes, I just wanted to add that I often feel unsafe at ATMs, and this is not a recent thing. This has been ongoing for many, many years. A lot of them, in addition to the things that the other guests mentioned, they're often dark. And you go there at night, and you feel like somebody might try to rob you. And I know that this has happened in many cases to persons who use ATMs. So it could be that the banks themselves are just now feeling what we've been feeling, the insecurity that we've been feeling for many years, because the banks themselves are now being targeted. But customers who use the ATMs, especially at night, have been targeted for many years. And that's one place I avoid, especially when it's dark. I try not to. As a matter of fact, I go to the ATM once a month. Literally once a month, I withdraw, because I don't use cash much. I withdraw just the amount of cash that I think I'm going to need for a few cash transactions here or there. But for everything else, I use card. And for me, that's a security reason.
Yes. I guess it's the difficulty in striking the balance between accessibility and safety and security. Because as we all know, they started out with the ABMs being attached to the banks, literally. And then they started spread them across the island. Is it that we're going to go back to that, you think? Let me start with Mr. Ellison. Is it going to be going back to the ABMs actually attached to the bank buildings?
Maybe. What I'm looking at, one of the, and I can just throw this tip out there, two tips. One, we cash ATMs that are in remote locations should really only give you some pocket change, basically. So you should not be able to be driving, let's say, for example, in Clarendon, by the roadside and be able to draw $100,000. So we could look at, we still want service to be accessible to all. And so if you know that certain ATMs can only give you a maximum of 5, 10, or 15,000 because of the amount that is stored, or even simply, there are no ATMs with panic buttons. And this is a bit strange. That's something that's elementary in the security industry. You have a panic button where something is wrong. I know one of the security features, just going general, if you input your PIN several times, then your card is taken. But also we could look at some way of notifying whether a response team, I know it's going to cost some more, but again, if we can assure persons like Ms. Reynolds that or ATMs are safe, then we would want to put an element in it that makes the users feel safe. Because if not, Doc, we'll have to go back to banking institutions where the ATMs are only at banks.
Right. But are there also concerns about the safety and security of internet banking and other cashless transactions? Because as was said earlier by Mrs. Reynolds, they have really told us to leave the building, use the ABM machines, and go online. Now they're saying do not use the ABM machines. So now we're going to be most people are going to be back online. How is that going to pan out, Mrs. Reynolds? Concern?
Well, that's the next move. So you're going to start seeing, Well, we've already started seeing it.
Yes.
The banks encouraging more and more cashless transactions. And there are a subset of society, including myself, that for me, this is the way. It's convenient. I don't have to worry about security. I do most of my transactions cashless anyway, either online or using my
External
card.
security.
But
online security is a concern now.
There is a large sector of Jamaican society that doesn't trust us moving towards a cashless society. I think it's the way to go, but most people, most Jamaicans, based on what I've seen and the responses to the content I've put out, most Jamaicans are very, very, very wary about moving in that direction. As a matter of fact, I've heard all kind of conspiracy theories about how it's the government that orchestrated the robbery of the truck
mark of the beast
in order to move us towards cashless so that they can monitor our money. And, all kinds of things I've started hearing because people just don't trust the system, which is why cash remains king even after all of these years and even after all the security even after all the technological advancements. Now, what we're going to have to do as a society and as a banking industry, they're going to have to make sure that online security is much stronger than it is now. And not only that, but reassure people that their money is safe when they conduct transactions online. Because I've been using this system personally for many years, and I've never personally had an incident. Now, I do know people who have had an incident where they've had their cards cloned, and thieves are able to access the system that way. But there are ways to help mitigate the situation as well. So
let's talk about that soon. Mr. Ellison, what's your take on that before we talk about the ways? What are your concerns about going cashless and online primarily?
I am pro, for the major part, I'm pro cashless and online transactions. One, if you look at the ease of it, it doesn't take much. Most of the platforms, they are very user friendly. We're in the age of touchscreen devices now, so you just touch what you want to do. And as a matter of convenience and safe, it's very much safe. I mean, remember days of having to join a certain line and you'd be spending an hour just to pay a light bill.
Yeah.
Convenience. And it within minutes or within seconds if you're using the app. And from a software engineering perspective, most of these apps are very safe. And because you may be using a credit card or a trade settle online transaction, investigation, and it's easier to see if you were defrauded as opposed to someone picking your pockets on the street and you have no closure to that. So I am pro moving things online, using less of cash. And there are many cashless societies out there that actually work well. And we should try to get there.
Yes. Mrs. Reynolds, somebody may be asking, what's the point of us having new bank notes printed, in terms of cash if we're going cashless?
There will always be a place for physical cash. So even though we have new banknotes printed, it doesn't mean, and even though we're moving toward cashless, doesn't mean that we're going to be completely cashless anytime soon. I don't see that happening at least within 20 years. I don't see us moving completely online. And within that period of time, we will still have a need for cash, and therefore we still have a need for banknotes. So I don't see that being an issue.
Okay. Words of advice now as we wrap up in the next 6 minutes. Begin with you, Mr. Ellison. What do you say now to the listening public and viewing public in that regard? What do we do in light of these developments?
Okay, firstly, and it's going to probably sound a bit harsh, but I really only use ATMs that are at the banks, and mostly those that you have to actually go inside the bank. So you're not lying, you're not being outside. The next thing is that we have to remember that no society is absolutely safe. And the biggest element of security is how safe we make ourselves. So we try not to put ourselves at risk. We know ABMs are vulnerable. We try to avoid going to them, at night. avoid ATMs that you might think is in a vulnerable community, and do some assessment. If you're in a line and you see persons are there lurking around, not doing a transaction, you be careful of that. And also, lastly, in the interest of time, we do have to remember that persons still rig and tamper with ABM. So if you're in a line and somebody goes in an ABM and spends 15, 20 minutes, come back out with no cash, I would recommend not using that because they could be now pre-staging that ABM to actually duplicate your card when you go in and use. So there are some tips. Most banks have tips on ABM safety and cash safety. I implore us that we actually pay attention to them because, I mean, criminals are very innovative, and so we need to protect ourselves more often than we think. We should leave the security to other people.
Mrs. Reynolds, what do you say to the listening public?
So I think the financial institutions are going to have to invest a lot more in building out the cashless infrastructure, and also in public education to assure people that this is the way to go, and that their money is safe in doing this type of transaction. It is going to take a large effort from not just the financial institutions, but all of society will have to buy into this method of doing business. Particularly the merchants are going to have to come on board, because what is the point of having a digital wallet if you can't use that wallet, that digital money anywhere? Nobody's accepting it, right? So there's going to have to be a big push to bring the merchants on board, and there's going to have to be some type of incentive to motivate people to make that transition. So, for example, you get a small discount when you pay with your digital money as opposed to paying with cash. If you get this discount, I guarantee you people are going to start signing up and using that feature, those features more frequently, because right now there is not a huge incentive to try to go cash, or at least the incentives that are there, meaning the convenience of it, is not enough to overcome the fear and the trust issues. And so the incentive is going to have to be higher for people to try to adapt to this new technology.
Yes. What about the banks themselves? Anything we can say to them? Because I'm saying it's because there are persons who are arguing that they really need to invest more in the safety of their customers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Mr. Ellison?
Yeah, this is going to be a tricky one because if we're to count how many ABMs each institution has, it's going to be a whole lot. Can we secure each ATM? That's going to be a massive overhead cost to pay for the different elements of security. Because for this element, you will need that physical security. You'll need that guard present, an armed guard or a response team. We may be able to secure those in the city, yes, and have some panic alarms, panic buttons, and allow, patrols to be done by armed security officers. And I think that's the first thing that I could put out there for the bankers, because it would be almost unfair to ask, for enhanced security, let's say far out on the highway or in some rural districts. But I think number one, I think we need panic alarms in ABM, and they should have a response team, especially in Kingston, within a few minutes. Contract a response team specifically for the metropolis to respond should there be panic. And it's going to be difficult because persons may now abuse this to distract. And that's the thing, you implement one thing, and then the criminals find a way to defeat it. And yeah, all right. So that's going to take some work. That's going to take some market research. But we may have to use systems and technology in order to I believe we should have everybody's facial recognition technology in ABMs, and the doors wouldn't open if your face is not scanned. Because we have people masked and doing all these things. So those are two recommendations I put on the table now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Ellison. Thank you, Mrs. Reynolds. Interesting discussion. Have a safe day.
All right, all the best.
Good. Listeners, the morning will return in just a moment.
JN Bank Small Business Loans. Tell us your business and let's turn your ambitions into reality. The time by JN Bank Small Business Loans is
7:30.
Breast cancer is real. Cervical cancer is real. Heart attack and stroke are real. And so are pregnancy complications. As a woman, if you are hit with one of these critical illnesses or complications, your whole life can be turned upside down. Total Woman Insurance Plan gives you real insurance protection for up to 15 major critical illnesses, life insurance, and other benefits, including free cancer screening. Get serious about your coverage. Get real protection with Total Woman Insurance Plan from Sagicor Life.
With family, friends, and more fun at Fun Fest Family Festival. Monday, April 10th at Hope Garden. Fun can't done with over 50 rides and attractions. Family concert featuring Lali and more. And giveaways, prizes, and discounts galore. Admission adults 1,000, children 3 years and over 700, and toddlers free. Fun Fest Easter Monday edition, April 10th at Hope Garden. Gates open at 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Come out early. Fun Fest.
There's certain moments in life you'll cherish forever. Like buying your first car, stepping into your first home, sending your child to university, starting that business you've always dreamed of. These are your great moments, and helping you achieve them is ours. Call Chris and Charles today. We have a loan for all the great moments in your life. Powering great moments since 1992. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles.
Tell me where you get the money transfer. Where you get the money transfer. Where you get the money transfer. Money move like a bird, like a plane, it's a blur. Money quick, money fast, money reach in a flash. This your agent no run out of cash.
This Easter, fly down to your nearest Alliance agent and get an Easter treat when you collect your MoneyGram money transfer. Happy Easter from Alliance.
Tell me where you get the money transfer.
Alliance.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint. Let's now look at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. In the Gleaner, will Dalco staff defy IDT order to return to work? And also J&J proposes paying, is it 8.9 billion, that's with a B, to settle talcum powder lawsuits. Interesting. In the Observer, stop, chop the line. Stop, chop the line. Students urge peers. In other words, they are saying return to school. Don't chop the line. And then we see in the Observer, Israelite police clash with worshippers at Jerusalem holy site. And then in Loop News, Jamaican jailed after knowingly infecting woman with HIV in UK. And then finally in Loop News, one man charged in connection with beryllium heist. That's one man charged in connection with the beryllium heist. Those are some of the major stories in our newspapers. Well, coming up next, we'll read some of the feedback from our social media question. Have you changed how you access and use ABMs? And if so, tell us how. Have you changed how you access and use ABMs? We're talking about it in the first watch. We're asking you to leave a comment on our Facebook page and YouTube channel, Love 101 FM Jamaica, or WhatsApp, 876-997-3125. Soon come back.
Here is your opportunity to connect with someone who will listen, pray, and give guidance. It's the Ministry of Counseling and Prayer of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Please call 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Saturdays and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please talk to someone if you're finding it particularly challenging to cope during this period of crisis. Someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today, 876-220-6474 or 876-332-7956. It's the Telephone Counseling and Prayer Ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. A reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
When I come to the end of myself, Father, carry me.
Another Word of Worship Wednesday is coming your way inside Alive, 1 to 5, April 5, packed with worship, fun, and information. Stick around for the brain testing exercise at 1:45. Prayer Blast will come your way at 2 o'clock. More prayer, more power. 2:15, we featured Todd Galbert as our worship artist of the day. At 3 p.m. inside the Drama House, we bring you Making Lemonade, Season 3, Episode 3, titled Forgive Me. All of the more will come your way inside Alive, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. This Word of Worship Wednesday, April 5, with yours truly, Sarah Amber 31 on the family station, Love 101, celebrating 30 years of music, family, and love.
This is a special announcement from Love 101 and Love Television. Our general offices will be closed to the public at 12 noon on Holy Thursday, April 6, 2023, through to Easter Monday, April 10, and will reopen on Tuesday, April 11 at 8:30 a.m. Programs and commercials for the period Friday, April 7 through to Tuesday, April 11 should be submitted by 9 a.m. on Thursday, April 6, 2023, and obituaries and notices by 10 a.m. on the same day to ensure scheduling for broadcast. Love 101 and Love TV wish for you and yours a holy and peaceful Easter weekend.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us so far. Well, we now segue into the second watch, and we have been counting the bodies and the tears, but how about the money? What is the monetary cost of legal services when it comes to criminal matters? And who can afford it? Especially after hearing that the recently held Klansman trial bill is $60.5 million so far, excluding the lawyer fees. And also, what are the other costs of crime beyond monetary costs? Well, to discuss these and other related issues, we have joining us so far Professor Elizabeth Ward, Chair of the Violence Prevention Alliance. And we are hoped to be joined by a lawyer as well. Good morning, Professor Ward.
Morning.
Yes, good to have you with us again on the program. From your experience in violence prevention, what are some of the major out of the court costs that are usually associated with crime?
Well, the costs go far, deep and wide. But if you can look at it within the hospital, when we looked at it in 2016, and costs across 7 hospitals, we looked at 25,000 cases that were seen in the hospital. And we found that it was over $3.6 billion to take care of those cases of violence seen. You know, and the indirect costs, which don't include all the costs that you're talking of in the judicial system, more like whether you have a disability afterwards and, you know, follow-up treatment care and things like that. There's another 5 billion. So you're looking at 8.6 billion, which you can inflate up to today's figures and increase cost of care in general. But I mean, those are the hard numbers. But the pain, the suffering, the loss of the family caregiver, you know, the loss of the males in the family, and what it does to all the other components, you know, who doesn't go to school, who doesn't get care for other services, and the drain on the medical services and the inability of them to provide that kind of care.
Yes. Professor Ward, how were these figures determined?
Dr. Ward, yes.
Yes. How are these figures determined?
We actually went into the hospital with a team. Teams went into the hospital. A consultant surgeon, two consultants, myself, researchers, and we actually got the figures, worked with the staff, and collected all the costs, you know, from getting to the hospital to being in the hospital, the drugs, the examinations, and everything. One case alone of violence-related injuries in a hospital was over 11 million to save that person's life. At the time, you know, blood transfusions, medication, special treatment, you know, and also just the cost of having them in hospital and having a hospital bed, taking them to ICU. You know, one day in ICU can cost over $100,000. And then nobody else is able to use that machine. You know, so the costs are and the staff time. You know, all the surgeons have to come out, the anesthetists, the nurses. The loss of the operating theater, the loss of, as I said, of a ventilator in an ICU ward, which are very limited.
Yes.
You know, because they're the most expensive place to provide care for anybody.
Yes. Okay. I understand that we now have online well-known attorney at law, Bert Samuels. Good morning to you, Mr. Samuels.
Good morning to you and your listeners.
Yes, great to have you as well. Well, we're 1 minute before the break. Could you just start by telling us what are the main costs associated with criminal cases from your...
Wow, it's a wide question.
Yeah.
The person is injured, so one is gone off to the hospital, one is in the jail, supervised by police officers, and the parents begin to rule out the legal fees for one, and the parents begin to rule out hospital fees for the other, and that's where it gets started. Then they have to go to court, and there's a staff at the court's office, a judge to be paid, police officers to man the court, and then there are two options for that victim. One is criminal, and the other is to be in civil court. So, you know, I can sue you for...
I'm so sorry, Mr. Samuels. You're up on that break now.
Fine.
Right? Stick a pin right there. We'll be right back.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on J&B Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jnbank.com to get pre-approved today. JN Bank will help you find a way.
Time on Love 101 is now 7:45.
Power in great moments. If you have financial needs, Christian Charles will fix them for you. Power in great moments since 1992. Oh, we have it all. Power in great moments. Relax, you got Christian Charles. Oh, we have it all. When you think alone, think Christian Charles.
Many of our brothers and sisters lose hope when diagnosed with HIV. Some lose their will to continue being a part of society. Others are despaired by the challenges of keeping up with their treatment. We understand. But remember, people with HIV live normal and progressive lives every day. You can too if you get back on track with your HIV treatment. Live for you, live for someone, live for something.
Get back on track, get back to life.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Breast cancer is real. Cervical cancer is real. Heart attack and stroke are real. And so are pregnancy complications. As a woman, if you are hit with one of these critical illnesses or complications, your whole life can be turned upside down. Total Woman Insurance Plan gives you real insurance protection for up to 15 major critical illnesses, life insurance, and other benefits, including free cancer screening. Get serious about your coverage. Get real protection with Total Woman Insurance Plan from Sagicor Life.
Save in style every time you shop at Home and Things. Find all the top brands at the best prices. Grab a deal on porcelain, ceramic and mosaic tiles, fixtures and faucets for kitchen and bathroom, windows and doors, lighting, home decor and more. Yes, you can save in style on just about everything in store. Old Hope Road and Constant Spring Road. Shop for store-wide savings today at Home and Things. Brands you know, brands you can trust.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Toussaint. And in this the second watch, we are discussing the other costs of crime. And in so doing, we have online Mr. Bert Samuels, attorney at law, and Dr. Elizabeth Ward, chairman or chair of Violence Prevention Alliance. Mr. Samuels, before the break, you were telling us about some of those major costs in the court.
Yes, it's a huge cost. I mean, this very violent country in which we live means that, you know, the trauma cases at the hospitals, elective surgeries have to be pushed back to take care of gunshot wounds and near-death stabbings, etc. A lot of the health services engaged. So as I say, the victim is off to the hospital where we, the taxpayers, have to pay for that. And then the accused goes to the court system where the taxpayers pay for that. And then now in the in-person expenses is that the family of the accused, who may have gotten violent because of mere words being used to him, will find they're having huge legal fees. Then you come into a system of massive delays in the court system where your court case ought to last 3 months, but they last 3 years. And hence legal fees cannot be sustained at the contemplation of a 3-month case. The lawyers know this case is going to be finished in 2026. So naturally the fees have to be paid. And lawyers have to invoke what is called a refresher fees, because some cases go very long. So you'll find that the average lawyer will charge a fee which will tell you very carefully that these fees will last 1 year. So the delay in the system is an added cost. Then if the person goes to the prisons, the taxpayers come again into play. So you move from hospital to court to prison, all funded by tax dollars. So that's why when we say unnecessary violence and, you know, the question of mediation has now entered the justice system because it was bursting at the seams. The judges alone could not deal with the matter. So we now have a system where for domestic violence in particular, you'll find that the court will invite the parties to go to mediation. So that's an offshoot of the justice system, and it's very good because when you go to mediation, if you settle the matter, very likely the accused will not get a criminal record.
Yes.
The matter will be settled by the judge. But the mediators are very good at settling the matter down, taking the heat down so there is no recurrence. And actually, the accused very often pays money to the victim at the mediation stage. It's a welcome innovation. It's been around possibly 15 years now.
But the mediators have to be paid as well, Mr. Samuel?
Pardon?
Do the mediators have to be paid as well?
Yeah, the parties now pay the mediators, and that's good too. On average, for civil matters now, each side pays $20,000, and the parties pay the mediation for mediation fees. A welcome thing, because young people are getting, criminal records, which later, when they mature, becomes to haunt them if they want to migrate, if they want a job with a security company. It's a second chance for many people, mediation. We applaud the mediation system. It has, I think the statistics show that it has taken a third of the cases out of the court system.
Uh-huh. Right. Yeah. Dr. Ward?
Yes.
Yeah, in light of all of these, costs that are associated with crime, both in the courts and outside, can you share with us some of the violence prevention strategies that we need to employ? After all, prevention is better than cure.
Well, I mean, there's primary prevention, there's secondary prevention, and there's tertiary prevention.
Yes.
So the primary prevention is the least expensive and really starts in the home, in the families, in the schools, where you understand and learn how to manage conflict, how to deal with a situation if it occurs, and make sure that there is no harm, and it's settled. And parenting, very, very important. The amount of conflict in the home. And as Mr. Samuels was saying, that the intimate partner violence, the violence in the home, the domestic violence is a huge part. And what happens as well is that when children see a lot of violence in the home, and they usually copy that violence and think that's the way to settle differences.
Yeah.
And we have to make sure that we don't quarrel in front of our children. We don't have altercations. We go to the mediators, as Mr. Samuel said, and settle our problems without, fighting in front of our children. Then the issues are in the schools. Do we arrange our schools? Do we make sure that the classroom management is there, that all the children are reading, the bullying is controlled, and that there's a method that if a fight does occur, there's an immediate reaction that settles that fight without it going into, people trained to disrupt that.
Yes.
And do that. When you get more onto, a lot of violence happens on the street, and a lot of the cases that we still see in hospital, because a lot of the gunshot wounds don't survive to come to hospital. So at KPH, only 13% of the, say, 5,000 or 6,000 cases a year that are seen at a hospital are gunshot wounds. The most expensive, as I told you, one case even that we documented in our study was $11 million to save that person's life. But the average case of a slight gunshot wound would be about 400,000. But when you multiply those figures and look at the other costs that come with, and the disruption that comes. But when people come to hospital with a stab wound or even a gunshot wound, and they're waiting for care, or they're in the hospital, we have used social workers, violence interrupters, peace mediators, whatever you call them, right there and then to talk to the parties involved, because we also did part of the study, and I think up to 25% of the patients seen said they were going out to get the guy that did the thing to them. And this is where we see the 5 and 6 cases coming out of one incident. The escalation, the retaliation, the revenge. And if you can calm people down, make sure they eat, have somebody, a good mediator to talk to them, follow them back into their home, sort out their family differences, make sure there's somebody to keep them calm, and that they know that they're going to have services to deal with the issue through mediation or victim support or whatever. You can reduce up to probably 50% of the retaliation before it even gets to the point of having to go to the courts and,
as you mentioned,
and all the other costs involved.
Yes, as you mentioned, courts and costs. Before we close this segment, I must ask you, Mr. Samuels, because there are persons who ask about the legal fees, the lawyers, and they ask, why charge so much money?
Well, there are two options for an individual. You can get legally appointed lawyer for the poor. That's something that is very beneficial to poor people. If you're going to ask for a private lawyer, now, the market drives the legal fees.
What is that determined, by the way? What's that determined?
There are people equivalent of the Airbnb. So it depends on what you want and which set of lawyers you want to do your cases. The lawyers who are in high demand, the law of demand and supply pushes up their fees because they're in demand. So that's not something that I want to comment on the market. It's a market-driven pricing system.
Are these fees regulated in any way?
No, and it can't be. Not under the law. You can't regulate legal fees. It's against the free market system that we work in now. In fact, we used to have schedule fees in conveyancing, that is real estate matters, and we have had to put them aside. We can't come together and agree fees or set fees. It's unlawful.
Are they paid by the hour?
Well, they're charged by the hour, and I'm telling you, by the hour and the delay in the criminal justice system, poor people wouldn't be able to afford lawyers. I've had a case in Half-a-Tree which lasted 7.5 years. That client could not pay me. It was after a while it became voluntary work. So a lot of people are being given voluntary work by lawyers. My first murder case was for free, but people don't know that.
Is there a difference in cost if the case is won or lost?
No, well, you pay before the results. In some civil matters, you have a contingency agreement where you come in my office, you are hit down by a motor car, it's clearly that the motor car is wrong. You don't have to pay $1. What we do, we have a contingency agreement where you don't pay me anything if I lose, but if I win, you get between 20% and 30%. The lawyer takes 20 and 30%.
Well, we have to leave it there. Very, very interesting and informative. I want to thank you both, Dr. Ward and Mr. Samuels, for joining us this morning. Have a safe day. God bless you both.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we continue to set the stage for a discussion of topical and controversial issues. For information or get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-95967. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and our guests. I'm Dylan Toussaint, giving a shout out to my sister June and cousins Althea, Fred, and Dave, as I now hand you back to Love in the Morning with Jokal Daya.
The Morning Watch